Welcome back to the Everyday Faith Podcast from Eastside with today's faith-rooted principle.
Good morning. Today is June 7th. It's Sunday morning. I hope that you are on your way to church, getting ready for church, or something along those lines. And I want to remind you that we are reviewing the 7 principles of the Judeo-Christian ethic, or 7 Judeo-Christian values. And we're reviewing these because they had a great influence on our founding fathers. It's often been said by our current president, make America great again. In fact, MAGA, as they call it for short, has become a movement, which I don't think it's a bad thing, but the reality is, and I think our president understands this to some degree, that if we're going to make America great again, we're going to have to make America godly again. And so it's important to understand, I believe, our founding fathers and their principles or ethics that guided them in the decisions that they made in the founding of our nation. So today we're on the 5th principle, the 5th guiding principle, which in the American Patriots Bible is stated the Abrahamic Covenant. And so many of you will recognize the Abrahamic Covenant. In Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, we read these words, "Now the Lord said unto Abraham," or Abram at that time, "Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." And much of that has been realized, and so it's an interesting concept when you start talking about the Abrahamic Covenant, or even bring that up today in society concerning the Jewish people, Israel as a nation. And there's a lot of mixed reviews, mixed attitudes about it. And the Abrahamic Covenant was not necessarily on their minds in the same way that it might be on your mind today. Our founding fathers, Israel, in fact, was not a nation in 1776. They were not reformed until 1948. And so when you bring this up today, there are many opinions about Israel. One is the modern state of Israel the same as biblical Israel? And I think there's the question is not necessarily complicated, and the answer is really not either. Obviously, there's some difference, but the modern state of Israel exists today by the mercy of God, and I believe they are holding a place for the biblical nation of Israel. And secondly, another question that comes up maybe today is, does the church today replace Israel? In fact, some might even think that America has replaced Israel. Now, I'm not going to take the time to hash all of this out, but what I will say is this. Number one, God still has a plan for Israel as a nation. Number two, neither America or the church replaces Israel. And number three, I personally believe that God has blessed America in part for our kindness to the nation of Israel, even the state of Israel that exists today. And I believe I could say that about our kindness to other nations as well, but in particular, Israel. And then number four, the last statement here was not on the mind of our founding fathers, even though it did later affect our political arena, especially, as I mentioned, in 1948. So our founding fathers, if this was a guiding principle, the Abrahamic Covenant, why was it a guiding principle to them? What was the idea? Well, let me read straight from the American Patriots Bible here concerning that. He says, "This principle of the Abrahamic Covenant states that if a person or nation obeys God, observing the moral truths found in the Bible, that person or nation will be blessed." It was obviously a promise directly to Abraham and concerning his descendants, but there are principles there. And so they saw this as the blessing of God promised to a nation, and they wanted God's blessing on our nation. And that blessing would come through obedience to God's word. If they disobey, they will bring punishment upon themselves. For most of our nation's history, Americans have accepted the belief that good deeds produce good results, and that people who were God-fearing in language and in lifestyle would be blessed by him. That belief has been proven to be true time and again. The writer of Proverbs tells us plainly, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And we see that in Proverbs chapter 14 and verse number 34. And so, as we consider this, I'd like to add this truth. Psalm 33:12, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. I want God's blessing on America, and it is definitely connected to our obedience to God's Word. That's principle number 6. That Abrahamic covenant gave some principles to our founding father concerning obedience to God and His Word. Let's live that way as individual believers. God bless.
Thanks for joining us for today's Rooted Principle right here on the Everyday Faith Podcast. If today's conversation has encouraged you, be sure to share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time right here on the Everyday Faith Podcast.